It's been nearly a year since we watched South Carolina's own Nikki Haley launch her presidential bid and covered her first swing through Iowa. Now, after more than 150 town halls and 5 debates and rising poll and fundraising numbers, Haley came to the January 15th Iowa caucuses with momentum, but left here just 3 points short of a second-place victory upset. Welcome to a This Week in South Carolina special report from Des Moines, Iowa. I'm Gavin Jackson. The caucuses ended Monday night as somewhat expected, with former President Donald Trump securing a majority stake of caucus goers at 51%. Behind him in a distant second was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, leaving former Governor Nikki Haley just a few points behind in third place. Now, we've been crisscrossing the state, and I want to take you on the campaign trail with me in this very cold and snow-covered state.
Whenever you hear the term blizzard conditions, oftentimes people are referring to it doesn't meet the criteria.
Right.
This is going to meet the criteria. What's a blizzard? 3 straight hours of visibilities at a quarter mile or less in snow and blowing snow and sustained winds or gusts of at least 35 miles per hour. That's a blizzard, and we're going to meet these criteria. I think this afternoon across Iowa and then tonight across Illinois and into Michigan, you do not want to be outside during these conditions because I'll tell you what, you're going to be looking at AccuWeather real field temperatures in the single numbers, you're going to be looking at local whiteouts, and you're going to be looking at extensive blowing and drifting of snow. Do not be outdoors in this storm this afternoon. Iowa, and then tonight Illinois into Michigan. Things are already bad across the area here.
The severe winter weather caused headaches across the state, from airport delays and cancellations to the campaign trail, where there were also cancellations of events due to blizzard conditions. But that didn't stop some folks from going out and knocking on doors, particularly a group with Americans for Prosperity Action, the group that endorsed Nikki Haley back in November and has been mobilized across the country on her behalf. We tagged along with them in a snowy Urbandale neighborhood in a blizzard.
Where to?
We are going to Senate District 22 near Urbandale. We're gonna knock some doors, talk to some voters. Oh.
You to join the interactive telephone town hall event with Republican candidate for United States President Vivek Ramaswamy, taking place right now. Please.
They do town halls, but we just know for a fact doors are way more impactful. Well, I mean, it goes even further with a town hall, right? Because you're not actually, you're not having a one-on-one conversation in a town hall setting. But even when you're making phone calls from a dialer, we just know statistically you're going to have less of an impact because there's not the face-to-face component. You're going to have a lot of people who just will even answer your questions in the first place. But we know on the doors, your ability to talk to someone. I mean, on the phones, you might, if you're having a good day, it might be a 5% take rate. On the doors, a good day. I mean, a really good day, like 40% take rate. Average day, 20-25% take rate. So we know that if we can get as many folks out on the doors, talk to as many Iowans as possible on the doors, we just know that our impact is going to be, tenfold what it would be if we were, just making phone calls. And it's certainly even more than that of an impact than doing, telephone town halls and. I'm with Americans for Prosperity Action. We're just out talking. I'm with Americans for Prosperity Action.
Okay.
We're just out talking with folks about the upcoming caucuses.
I'm going to be caucusing for Nikki Haley.
My man, that's what I like to hear. Do you know where your caucus location is?
Yeah, it's over at the school down here off down the road.
Awesome. Well, great. That's all I was here to talk about, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Well, we're seeing a lot of momentum right now, and I think in the primaries and in the nominating contest, momentum is the name of the game. So we're seeing her rising in the polls in Iowa. We're expecting a strong finish here in Iowa. Go to New Hampshire, where we're going to be able to really compete. We've seen recent polls there show that she's rising there. And then you go to her home state in South Carolina. We think she can do very well there as well. I mean, the expectations are a strong third place finish. Anything better than that is just icing on the cake.
Even State Senator Tom Davis and Representative Nathan Ballantyne came to Iowa to support their longtime friend. Senator Davis, welcome to Iowa. Good to see you. How have you been doing? I know you had a harrowing journey to get here. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. I finished up session last Thursday and then got up bright and early on Friday morning to fly out of Columbia. Had a connecting flight through Charlotte, then was going to get to Des Moines, and looked forward to a full afternoon of events with Nikki Haley on Friday. But out of Charlotte, we received news that all flights to Des Moines had been canceled. And so I waited in line and tried to figure out what my alternatives were, and there wasn't going to be anything until late the next day, and they really couldn't make any promises then. And so I was talking to Nathan Ballantyne. Nathan was traveling with me, and I said, Nathan, I'm going to go ahead and rent a car and drive. And he goes, are you crazy? That's 800 miles. And I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and do that. That way I know I'm doing something positive. I'm moving in the right direction. And so I went ahead, and they only had one car left. They had a luxury Land Rover that I got to, I think $400 to rent that thing.
Well, if you're driving however many miles, I guess that's the best way to go, right?
Yeah, well, I got in it though, but it was like getting into a cockpit of a 747. I mean, it's just like the whole instrument display there, and I was just looking for the volume on the radio so I could play some Audible books. And so I set forth for Des Moines, just put Des Moines in the Waze, and I drove for about 12 hours, and I stopped right outside St. Louis and got a hotel. I checked in about midnight. I guess that would have been Friday night. And then is it Friday night? Yeah, Friday night. So then I got up on Saturday morning and drove the rest of the way, and got in here about 6 o'clock last night and got a great night's sleep, and phone banked all day today for Nikki Haley, talked to some great Iowans, and tried to convince them to come out and caucus for Nikki Haley tomorrow night. So I've had a pretty good experience so far.
It's caucus day in Iowa. It's negative 11 degrees, and it's going to be a cold one today, the coldest on record for caucus day in Iowa. But that's not stopping former Governor Nikki Haley getting out about pushing people out to the caucus sites this evening at 7 o'clock, including her first stop here at Drake Diner in Des Moines. We just caught up with the governor. She was shaking hands and getting people pumped up for what will be a long and cold day as folks turn out to pick their choice for the next Republican nominee for the president.
Thank you. Yeah, just speak from the heart. Tell people why we care and why we want to do this. We'll get it done. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Today is the day we make history. Today's the day we make history because we tune out the noise of the media, we tune out the noise of the politicians, and we raise the voices of Americans that say, we want a better day. We're going to make it happen. Thank you. God bless you. Let's do this.
Can I ask you who you're caucusing for today?
Nikki Haley. For me, no question, the bottom line is I like the economy under Trump. I like the fact that we weren't in wars. But at some point, the rhetoric overshadowed the results. And for me, at some point, we get into the position where I believe this is an election that a Republican should absolutely win unequivocally. Biden has been an absolute disaster in every way possible. And so from my perspective, how do we win? This election is going to come down to votes in Green Bay, outside of Phoenix, outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So where is it, are we going to find the difference of 60,000 votes for those places to matter? Probably outside of Fulton County, Georgia. I mean, if you pay attention to electoral math, that's where those votes are going to matter. It's the only places. I hate to say that as an Iowan, but Republicans going to win Iowa by +9 to +11. The question is, where are we going to pick up those other votes? And it's someone other than Trump.
You know, when Trump was in there, we had everything perfect. I've done the same job for 25 years. I move houses and I set houses. I pick them up with cranes, put them on basements for the average person that can, handle that income. And during Trump, towards the end of COVID, I mean, we had 125 houses set every year. And then this last year I had 65, and now, right now, at this point in time, I'm looking at 12 houses.
So the economy is a big driver for
Oh, it's done, as far as I'm concerned, for the middle class.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On Tuesday night, voters in the first in the nation Republican presidential primary here in New Hampshire made it overwhelmingly clear that former President Donald Trump is the clear standard bearer for the Republican Party and nomination. Welcome to a This Week in South Carolina special report. I'm Gavin Jackson in Salem, New Hampshire. in the state that was key for growing momentum for South Carolina's own Nikki Haley ahead of the state's February 24th primary. I was on the ground crisscrossing the state as the governor barnstormed here in what became a two-person race when Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dropped out on Sunday. But before we get on the trail here in New Hampshire, I want to take you back to October, when we spent a few days with Haley on the trail. She filed at the Secretary of State's office to be on the ballot in New Hampshire back when her support was hovering in the low teens. We also got behind-the-scenes access to her before the current media swarms became such fixtures on the trail.
Hey, why don't you go around front? Watch the front door. Yep. Thank you. We'll be right outside, okay?
Oh my goodness. I gotta stop everything.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing well.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
As if 10 tours in Afghanistan wasn't enough. Now he's gone through Law Enforcement Academy. Now, and you know, I just saw a commercial on TV, and you're right there in it. Have you been getting a lot of flack for that?
Yeah. Just a lot of people call me going, you really like her? I'm like, yeah, you're going to love her.
Oh, that's good. Well, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I start with this man who I adore, who just came out for me like that.
Oh.
And really got us going. And then y'all have just, it's been a story of addition, which, you know, we love. But I'd love to just chat with you about whatever you want to talk about. I can tell you, if you want to talk about Iowa, if you want to talk about New Hampshire, if you want to talk about anything else, I'm happy to, you know, or tell me what you're hearing on the ground. That's important too.
She will serve you, and I believe this in my heart. And this First in the Nation primary summit was made for her because she's been it. She's done it. She's put the mileage in. She's going to put in more. She's got more energy than anyone I've ever seen. And I frankly love her. My wife Sharon loves her, and we've been on day one. And I will say, I was the first one. And I'm going to pat myself on the back when she gets elected president. But right now, I'm going to introduce to you the next president of the United States, Nikki Haley.
But now I'm going to tell you what I told South Carolinians when I became governor. No more whining. No more complaining. Now we get to work. How do we fix it? When it comes to our economy, let's start by clawing back the $500 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, let's go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud that we know exist. $1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see you too. Thank you. Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Autumn in New Hampshire gave way to lower temperatures and steadily higher poll numbers and fundraising numbers for Haley that led into winter, where she solidified her second-place dominance in New Hampshire polls and looked forward to capitalizing on her close third-place showing in Iowa.
I've known you for years. Y'all have decided you want to talk about what the scenario is going to be. I have told you from the very beginning and been very consistent.
I said I wanted to be strong in Iowa. I feel like we did that. We started at 2%, we ended with 20%. I was happy with that. I said we want to be stronger in New Hampshire. We're going to do that. So we won't know what stronger is until the numbers come in. And then I want to be stronger than that in South Carolina. And for all of those that are reporting that I'm a moderate, I will ask you, or anybody, Trump or anybody in Fox who's saying that I'm not a conservative, name one thing that I wasn't conservative. Because what I know as a governor, I passed tort reform. I passed voter ID. I passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. I passed pension reform. We cut taxes. Show me where I'm moderate, because I'm not. The difference is who is deciding who's conservative and who's moderate. Is it because what I say? Is it how I talk? What is it that's saying that? So, I mean, I think that's the focus. What I'll tell you now, they're saying, well, but if you win in New Hampshire, that's favorable territory, but not South Carolina. I won South Carolina twice as governor. I think I know what favorable territory is in South Carolina. We are going to South Carolina. We're going to be strong in South Carolina. The road is never going to stop here in New Hampshire. That's always been the plan. Strong in Iowa, stronger in New Hampshire, and even stronger in South Carolina.
It was supposed to be just a normal campaign stop, one of many today on Sunday, a few days before the New Hampshire primary here in Seabrook, New Hampshire at Brown's Restaurant. But the big news happened with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dropping out of the race, and Nikki Haley broke that news to the crowd that was gathered here.
We just heard that Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the race. No! And I want to say to Ron, he ran a great race. He's been a good governor, and we wish him well. Having said that, it's now one fella and one lady left. So there were 14 people in this race. There were a lot of fellas. All the fellas are out, except for this one. And this comes down to, what do you want? Do you want more of the same, or do you want something new?
I like her energy, and I enjoyed meeting her personally, and I'm excited about her running as President of the United States, and I think she'll do a great job for all parties and help America to be great.
What made you, are you a registered Republican, are you undeclared? How do you identify?
I was undeclared, but then a registered Republican.
And what about other folks in this race? Obviously with Ron DeSantis, did you ever think about Ron DeSantis or any other folks?
No. I kind of liked Chris Christie, and then the more I heard about Nikki and her experience, it changed my vote for her.
What did you think about the news with Ron DeSantis dropping out?
I thought it was very exciting. Good for her.
Welcome to a This Week in South Carolina special report. I'm Gavin Jackson in Elgin, South Carolina, where former Governor Nikki Haley just wrapped up a campaign event as she kicked off her statewide bus tour this week. We also caught up with former President Donald Trump on the trail. But first, I want to take you to an interview I had with the former governor in Orangeburg. But Governor, thanks for making time for us on your bus tour. We're in the final days of the South Carolina campaign trail, and I wanted to talk to you about a couple things we've been seeing and hearing from your main opponent right now, of course, former President Donald Trump. We just saw him in South Carolina for the first time since September this past weekend, and he had some multiple things to say, but one of them, we'll listen to a clip that he played discussing your husband, Michael, and we'll play that clip right now.
Where's her husband? Oh, he's away. He's away. What happened to her husband? What happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone. He knew. He knew.
So you mentioned your husband, Michael, at every campaign stop. He's serving overseas. Tell me what your thoughts were when you heard Donald Trump say that about him.
I mean, obviously, as a military spouse, you know, you feel that first. I mean, we're incredibly proud of Michael. But we're also proud of every military man and woman who serves and their military families. It's a family sacrifice. And so the first thing I thought about, obviously, was, yes, my kids, his parents, you know, all of that. But you go to the bigger story. It's not personal in the respect of South Carolina is a strong military state. My brother was a veteran from Desert Storm. You know, Michael served in Afghanistan. Now he's serving overseas. It's a sacrifice. And the idea that this keeps happening over and over again from him, to whether he said in Arlington Cemetery, you know, what was this for? Or whether it's him saying they're suckers, or whether he's saying this about my husband. You can't say something like that and say that you respect the military. And whose shoulders do you think we stand on? Because it's every man and woman who's ever served. We stand on their shoulders because they believed in something bigger than themselves, and they were willing to sacrifice for it. And to have someone mock anyone in the military is a problem. And it's another reason why he brings chaos and just division to everything he touches.
Is that disqualifying for him to become president again?
I don't even think he should have a driver's license if you talk bad about a member of the military. I certainly don't think he should be president of the United States.
Haley's barnstorming bus tour brings smaller crowds, but at multiple stops a day, like at a Harley-Davidson dealership in Elgin Monday, where she was asked about still supporting Trump should he become the Republican nominee.
I mean, right now, it's not about losing my vote, because I'm still trying to defeat him. And I'm going to do it until the very last day, and South Carolinians have not voted. So regardless of what y'all want to report about, you better think about that.
Let me tell you, Donald Trump lost my vote when he made fun of John McCain. John McCain was a war hero. Served in Vietnam, as did my older brother. Got shot all up. My heart goes out to veterans. Any man makes fun of our veterans and belittles our veterans is a lowlife in my opinion. And I can't go along with that. He is a self-serving individual. We need a person that's willing to bring everybody together. And I can't go along with any man that belittles our military. I am the odd man. A lot of my friends, a lot of people that I respect highly, listen to what Donald Trump is saying and how they can swallow it. I don't understand. I really don't. And it even divides within families, divides within churches. I've seen it within my own family and within my own church. So it's tough. It's tough. But I believe Nikki Haley is our best hope. I really do.
With 2 weeks to go until the primary, former President Donald Trump held a rally at Coastal Carolina University in Conway, his first rally in the state since September. It drew more than 3,300 people and came just days before his rally in North Charleston, which drew more than 1,700 supporters.
Yeah, so we got an email, like, we just got tickets, and then we heard Trump was coming to our campus. Was like, I gotta go. Because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is never gonna happen again, you know? They hear it, listen, you hear it, you're USA. Everyone loves Trump. No one doesn't like Trump. So, so it's my first time ever voting, so I'm very excited, and I'm excited to give my vote to Trump, for sure. First of all, his energy, it's different, you know, and this rally you're gonna see it from this rally. Second of all, like, I agree with most of the things that he does, like, politically, like, you know, like, the wall and everything like that, so, inflation, so, I mean, yeah, I agree with most of the things that he does, and, you know, if I agree with him, I'm gonna vote for him, so.
Dr. Fauci's virus hit, I had to move to a red state. So what really brought me to South Carolina was the weather, the warmth, and because there are so many more Trump supporters down here. No, never Nikki, never anybody else but President Trump. He deserves another term. It was his last time, and he deserves to be in again.
What are your thoughts about, you have the wanted, you have that, like...
Who cares? He's just being persecuted is the word. And you can definitely tell there's a two-tier justice system. Look at what just happened.
And so what do you think might happen if he does get convicted? Do you think that will hurt his chances in November, or do you think you guys will rally behind him?
Every time he gets indicted or convicted, his poll numbers go up and we support him more because we know what's happening. And yeah, Trump for president, Trump all the way.
Former Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley was the last opponent standing between Trump and the nomination earlier this year. She won only one primary, the District of Columbia, and also won 97 delegates total, including just 3 in her home state of South Carolina, before dropping out after Super Tuesday in early March. Haley last week released her delegates and instructed them to support Trump, and said she was not invited to the RNC, which was fine with her. However, on Sunday, Haley was invited and accepted a primetime speaking slot for Tuesday.
I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
Drew McKissick has been the chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party since 2017 and was a national co-chair of the Republican National Committee until Trump overhauled the leadership this past March. Despite those party machinations, we spoke with McKissick about how Republicans can't take a Trump victory for granted and the party must be united.
100%. I mean, you've seen poll numbers from some of these states now. I mean, oh, well, we're looking good in Georgia, we're looking good in North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, we're up there and so forth. You know, to me, one, this is halftime right now. If you're thinking about a ball game, we're in halftime. You've got to play the entire game. You know, not like some teams that I pull for occasionally, which only play 3/4 of a game, and then, you know, then it's over. And so, no, we won't see that. We're going to play the whole game. And it's true that excitement, again, is what's going to carry us all the way through. But you don't want to get overconfident. I tell people all the time, I've spoken in blue states and red states with county party leaders, state party leaders, and tell them, you know, any blue state can become a red state, any red state can become a blue state. Same for congressional districts and counties. All you have in front of you is the next election.
Welcome to a This Week in South Carolina special report. I'm Gavin Jackson at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. It has been a turbulent summer in American politics. The assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump's life to President Joe Biden opting against a second-term bid, setting up his Vice President Kamala Harris to become the nominee, the first woman of African and Indian descent to do so. The move has electrified the Democratic Party in a way many say is similar to Barack Obama's 2008 run. The energy is palpable around the Democratic delegates gathered here in Chicago, where myself, reporter Mayan Schechter, and producer Amy Crouch have embedded with South Carolina's delegation for the past week, just like we covered the Republicans in Milwaukee last month. While there are no statewide Democratic elected officials like there were in the Republican delegation, South Carolina Democrats still pack a punch, especially as the state was the first in the nation primary state to nominate President Joe Biden in February. South Carolina was also the critical state for Biden in the 2020 primary, when Congressman Jim Clyburn's endorsement revitalized Biden's floundering campaign. The move solidified Clyburn's kingmaker status, prompting multiple visits to the state from administration officials over the years, including the president, vice president, and cabinet officials. I caught up with Clyburn this week after he addressed the national convention and asked him about the energy in his party and major developments over the past few months.
Well, there is a lot of energy, and it's been that way for the last couple of weeks. But what we have to be very careful of, that energy is a great thing to have. But for it to be effective, it must be harnessed, and it must be targeted. And this energy that's floating around there, we've got to put the organization in place to harness that energy, and we've got to have implementation of this campaign that will target it to be effective on Election Day.
Sir, what's it been like this past 4 weeks? You're a historian, you love your history. It's been a kind of a wild past month for not only the Democratic Party, but America in general. How do you sum up the past 4 weeks?
Well, you know, I study history almost daily, and I'd say to people all the time, the reason people seem to feel that these are unusual times is that they don't spend a lot of time studying our history. The history of the country is replete with these kinds of challenges along the way. In fact, I was never surprised at what was happening on January 6, 2021, because it's exactly what happened in 1876, the only time we've ever had the election thrown into the House of Representatives. And South Carolina played a critical role back in 1876, and so I was well prepared for that.
Well, I think first of all, it's a new generation of leadership. It's a new leader who's going to hopefully push us into the future instead of backwards, as we've seen, you know, with the Trump administration and with that campaign. I also think she has been committed to making progressive wins for a lot of young folks who care about these issues, and she's been championing them. She's been a voice for young folks at the table, and I know that every time she sees young people in a room, she gravitates towards us. She wants to hear what we have to say, and I also think as a young South Asian woman, to have a role model like her, to have someone who I can look up to, who's breaking the biggest glass ceiling that we see, who's going to be our next president, is something that's so inspiring, and hopefully she won't be the last.